Hey guys, Andrew Escobar here, back fully refreshed and ready to talk about shrimp. Oh man, yesterday was intense. I'm a night shift guy, so when I have to stay up to get a shipment of little buddies in the mail, I have to stay up for like 24 hours to make sure I can actually get it the moment it comes to the door. Ugh. But now that I have gotten some sleep, I can talk about my new little buddies. So, it was pretty intense getting everything set up here. So these are my pumpkin shrimp. They're starting to get their color. These are actually very pretty. And I put some hornwort in there because hornwort's a great place for biofilm to just build up on. It's got a ton of surface area for what it is. And it helps reduce nitrates a little bit. Over here, I've got my neon yellows, which some of them are still perking up. And I put some hornwort in here as well, obviously. Now, I want to talk about what happens when I get things like shrimp and fish in the mail. First off, they're going to be stressed from the entire move. Look, they went in a bag inside of a box on a truck for several days, probably got jostled around quite a bit. And on top of that, when they get here, they have to adjust to completely new water parameters. That's why I always order a minimum of 10 shrimp of any color, because I have to expect that some will not survive the transfer. It's too stressful. And the reason why it's more stressful in a tank like mine compared to some other people's tanks is I use straight hard water from my well, which has been pretty good to me, although lately, if you see my other videos, you'll see lately it's been a little crazy, but things have settled down a bit. And my well water is ridiculously hard. It's got a very high TDS, but it also has all the things that things like live-bearing fish, for instance, need. Like live-bearing fish cannot be in soft water. They will get the shimmies. I learned that the hard way when I was younger. So now I use hard water, and they do quite well. But the same thing kind of goes with shrimp. See, shrimp have an interesting issue. If the hardness of the water is too soft, their exoskeleton becomes soft, and it won't be able to crack in the right spot for them to exit the exoskeleton, and they'll die in their exoskeleton because of this. It's very stressful for them to get out if they can't get out, so they end up overexerting themselves, and then eventually they die because of this. Now, the opposite can happen as well. If the water is suddenly too hard, their exoskeleton becomes too rigid, and now they don't have the strength to crack it, and then they die in their exoskeleton. And when a shrimp transfers from one body of water to another, like when you order from an online store and it gets shipped, they need to molt. This is naturally what happens to shrimp. Whenever there's a big change, like if you do a water change, for instance, and it affects the parameters, makes it a lot nicer, what have you, but any major change, shrimp are going to want to molt. So the hardness that was in the bag, the water that was in the bag that these came in, I tested the hardness of it, and the hardness in my water is double what the water was from Aquatic Arts. So that's a big change for shrimps. That's why I slowly acclimated them. But even with a very slow drip acclimation, their exoskeletons are going to be different for them, and they're adults. So they have to relearn how to get out of their exoskeleton. It's not an easy process for them to adjust. And because of this, some of them will die. That being said, Aquatic Arts is really cool. They put, for every order of 5, they put an extra in there in case of DOA. So, regardless of the fact that I had a few die, yes, some did die. I still have the minimum 10 of each color. The extras were the ones that passed away. Now, yes, some passed away. It's been about 24 hours or so. Maybe a little less, actually. And this is not uncommon. You have to be willing to accept that with a major water change like this, shrimp that are born and raised in a completely different environment just can't handle the change. That being said, all I need is for several, or at least one buried female, to survive. Because once the next generation is born in this water, it no longer becomes a problem. Because the newborn shrimp, if they're born and raised in my water, will already learn how to deal with the water parameters from the get-go. They won't have to relearn or readjust anything, and they'll do a lot better. And I've got the proof of it right here. My Dream Blue Velvets. Got a little nice colony down right here. I put some food in there. If you went through my videos from a long time ago, you'll see my first order of Dream Blue Velvets kept dying. I had ordered 10, there was about 12, and then some died in shipment because they got stuck in the postal service for like over a week. So I actually got maybe 15, and I ended up with maybe like 2 or 3 at the end. But one female was buried, and that one buried female was able to produce the eggs that made the offspring that flourished into all of these buddies. And make no mistake, there's well over, well, if I include the ones that I've sold already, there's been hundreds of these guys. But I also got from another breeder that's water was a little more similar to mine, and the other breeder, their shrimp, there wasn't nearly as many that passed away from the adjustment. But what I'm getting at is, even though you get new shrimp, you have to accept that some may pass away because they can't adjust. The ones that do survive only need to reproduce once to produce offspring that will be fully capable of living in your water, you know, so long as the tank is cycled, etc. And then you get tons of shrimp. So, I knew this coming into the whole thing here. And I was perfectly willing to accept the fact that this was going to happen. That's why I ordered a minimum of 10. Because I expect some to die. And no, I don't want my little buddies to pass away. I do everything I can to ensure that they survive. Because to me, they really aren't just little products that breed that I sell. I really do enjoy sitting down here and watching them. That's why I've got 3 recliners. And yeah, it's got stuff on it right now, but you know, I sit down here with my friends and there's no TV or anything, there's just the fish. We love the fish. You know, my fish are my little buddies. Some of them are fish that I have no plans on breeding and selling, like little Poof, the puffer, who's in that tank now. And yeah. So my point is, there's a long way to go. The process is painful sometimes, knowing that this sort of thing happens. And there's going to be experienced aquarists that'll tell me, look, if you do things right, you shouldn't have any ones that pass away. It's easier for some people than others. Some people's water is just better suited. A lot of these shrimp come from California. California's water is extremely different. And then some of them that I had came from New York. Very different water there too. Even Indiana, their water was very different in certain respects. So, this goes for just about anything. That's why slow acclimation and understanding how to combat symptoms of illness to make sure they survive and produce offspring is important. And it's not just the shrimp. These Dream Blue Velvets here, which are starting to get prettier by the day actually, I'm thinking about switching over their food to a different diet to get them more colorful. But my Dream Blue Velvets, I'm sorry, my blue Moscow guppies, I apologize. When I got a trio, I had to be very careful. My trio originally I started out with only 3 fish. Look at all the fish now, very happy and healthy. My original 3 fish that I got were exhibiting symptoms of being very unhappy at first because of the water difference. The water they came from wasn't nearly as hard as this water. The pH was different. TDS was different. Everything was different except for the fact that the tank cycled. That was never different. Always have a cycle tank before you put fish in it. But the point is, it took them time to adjust, but after about, I'd say 2-3 weeks, they started acting much more normal. And yes, I drip acclimated them as well. Getting fish through the mail is hard. And there's a good reason why fish stores buy in bulk and buy from major distributors. Because major distributors have the quantity to replace any ones that die. And they have deals set up to get reduced pricing on the next shipment to replace any that die that they don't sell, to reduce their overhead costs. As a little micro operation, and make no mistake, this is a micro operation. Aquatic Arts is a family business in Indiana, and they do a great job. But they run out of their home as well, but they've got hundreds of tanks, and they're still considered a small operation. Factory farms, we're talking dozens, if not hundreds, of pool-sized tanks, like swimming pool tanks. Tanks that are like 1,000 gallons. So there is a huge difference between quantity versus quality. So when I breed something, I try to go for quality, but that means I have to work in small quantities. And I have to work within my financial means to do so. So I can't just order a bunch of shrimp like a pet store, have some die, and they get discount shrimp the next time I order because I have a big deal with some sort of company. That's not how I work. That means I have to pay a lot more attention to what I do. So I have to understand the cost and risk analysis of everything before